So to all benefits, as we listen to the class, it may also come down. You can be also very additional forms that you can listen at. So this morning the session is given by Tathālokā Mahātherī, USA, and we will present the topic as Heritage of Bhikkhunī Sangha, Introduction to Bhikkhunī Sangha History, in accordance to the Bhikkhunī. So then we will ask your questions with your so for the other students who are not very familiar with English, your teacher will summarize for you. Thank you.
Mungkin Vibhanga yang boleh nyalain ya? Atau sini bilang boleh nyalain atau di mic aja boleh nyalain? Mic aja sudah bilang nyalain. Start gitu ya. Kan start. Dia boleh nyalain video. Kan start di video.
Heritage of the Bhikkhunī Sangha, offered for the Bhikkhuni Upasampada in Bodhgaya, November of 2022, organized by the Maha Society of India and United Theravada Bhikkhuni Sangha International. Introduction to Bhikkhunī Sangha history and Bhikkhunī Vinaya. Namo Buddhaya. My best greetings to all venerables of the Maha Society of India and United Theravada Bhikkhuni Sangha International, and to all those who are dedicating their lives to the Blessed One, the Buddha's way of life, practice, realization, and teaching. This class will have 3 parts. First, Intro to Bhikkhunī Sangha history, HerStory, the first turning. Second, the Buddhist Community, parallel patterns. And third, Intro to Bhikkhunī Vinaya, Bhikkhunī Vibhanga, and Bhikkhunī Khandhaka. Part 1, Intro to Bhikkhunī Sangha history, HerStory, the first turning. It's the eve of the Kartika Purnima in Pali, the Kartika Punami in Sinhala, the Ilpoya full moon. On this Kartika full moon in 2406 BCE, the Emperor Ashoka held a great Bodhi tree festival with his daughter Arahantari Sankhamita and Bhikkhunī Sangha to honor their journey. Per all the ancient texts, the Buddhist Bhikkhunī Sangha dates back to venerable antiquity, to the early days of the Buddha himself, with Mahapajapati Gautami Therī and many great leading Arahati Bhikkhuni Theris. Early Pali text chronicles passed down in Sri Lanka from the time of the Emperor Ashoka state that all previous Buddhas also had great leading Bhikkhuni disciples, as will the future Buddha, Metteyya, in Sanskrit, Maitreya. Our Buddha Siddhartha Gautama, the sage of the Shakyans, also famously stated as part of his founding mission statement, voiced even before his very first turning of the wheel of the Dhamma, that he would have bhikkhuni disciples who, just as his bhikkhu disciples are, sāvika or shravika, true disciples in the feminine, vinita, well-trained, well-educated, disciplined, Visarata or Visharata, assured, confident, knowing how to conduct oneself, skilled. Bahusutta or Bahushruta, widely learned. Dhammadara, bearers of the teaching who have memorized the teaching. Dhammanudhamma patipanna, who practice patipada in line with the teaching. Samichi patipanna, who are correct in their practice, their patipada. Anudhammacariniyo, who live perfecting in line with the teaching. Sakkang acaryakang ukahetva, and who, having learned it and grasped it from their teachers, achikisanti, they show, tell, point out, describe, and explain that Dhamma. Dese santi, they declare, set forth, and teach that Dhamma. Panyape santi, they reveal, impart, disclose, and help others to discover the noble truths. Pattape santi, they make known, furnish with, and establish others in the truths. Vivari santi, having lifted the veil and removed the cover, they set forth and disclose the truths. Vibhaji santi, they analyze, clearly discerning and distinguishing the Dhamma in all details and factors. Uttani karisanti, they open it up, make it clear, and make it manifest. Uppanang parapavadang sahadhamena sunni kahitang nikahetva. They are able to legitimately and completely refute false doctrines of others that have arisen. Sa patiharyang dhammang dese santiti, and to teach the miraculous, wondrous teaching, accompanied by wonders, can mean that. Substantiated with a demonstrable basis, well-founded. The words of the Buddha from the Mahaparinibbana Sutta, Tika Nikaya, the long discourses of the Buddha. So this coming week, November 9th through 15th, 2022, after the full moon, Khandhaka full moon, the Emperor Ashoka and company set out on a week-long journey from Pataliputta by land through the Vindhya mountain range and by the Ganga to the Tamralipti port with Bodhi tree sapling, Bhikkhunī Sangha, and great entourage. Although some say, A, that the Bhikkhunī Sangha passed away after Mahapajapati Gautami Theri's Parinibbana, or B, passed away after Sankhamita Theri, or C, passed away after the first 500 years of the Buddha's Sasana. In the first 1,000 years of the Buddha's Sasana, we see numerous textual and epigraphical, that is, inscriptural records of luminary Bhikkhuni leaders shining in South Asia and spreading abroad. In the Ashokan period, the 3rd century BCE, we see Ashokan daughters Sankhamita Theri traveling to Sri Lanka, her younger half-sister Charumati Theri to Nepal, and the transmission of the lamp from Sankhamita Theri and her great company of bhikkhunis to Anula Tisa Theri, the first Arhati of Sri Lanka, together with her large following of 1,000 women of the royal household and her retinue, visiting Kelaniya Raja Mahavihara in Sri Lanka, site of this great painting. On the opposite wall, the transmission of the lamp is painted. Sankhamita Theri to Anula Tisa Therī, the first Arahati of Sri Lanka. The transmission of the lamp. Dipavamsa, chapter 18, verses 11 through 13, tell not only of Therī Sankamitta, but also of wise Uttara, Hema, and Pasada Pala, Agimitta, Dasika, Pegu, Papata, Mata, Mala, and Dhammadasiya, the 11 Bhikkhunis who came from Jambudvipa, India, and taught the Vinaya Pitaka in Anuradhapura, also teaching the 5 collections of the Sutta Pitaka and the 7 treatises of the Abhidhamma. Dipavamsa verses 17 through 46 continue the exposition of these Bhikkhunis' illustrious tradition, with more than 10 verses lauding the ongoing lineage of those Bhikkhuni Theris who were outstanding Vinaya teachers on the Isle of Lanka, who were commended as Vinaya Visarada in verses 15 and 16, Sadhamma Vinaya Ratha in verses 18, 23, 43, Vinaya Tawacha, verses 27, 31, 33, 38, Aga Vinayavadi, verse 30, and Vinayadhara, verses 42 and 45. 18 further verses laud these Theris who were of great wisdom, Mahapanya, confident, knowledgeable, and skilled, Visarada, widely learned, Bahusutta, and Pandita, holders of the Sutta tradition, Suttadhara, teachers of the doctrine of discernment, Vibhajavadi, unexcelled teachers of the Dhamma, Dhamma Katikang Uttama, who were also teachers of the 5 Nikayas of the Sutta Pitaka and 7 treatises on Abhidhamma, Nikaye Panchavache Sung, Satta Pakaranani Cha, and masters of the passed down teachings of the Theris, Therī Ovadika, illuminating the Sangha, Sangha Sobhana. 5 more verses reveal Bhikkhunis known for extraordinary knowledge and the 6 powers, who were Abhinyata, Chalabhinya, and Mahidika. Further verses speak of Bhikkhunis of great renown in the Sasana. Sasane Visutta, those known as guardians of the Sasana. Sasana Palaka, and those who are leaders of the island, Dipanaya. Last but not least, 7 verses record those Bhikkhunis who had the very special role of Sadhamma Vangsa Kovida, possessed of right wisdom, who were the bearers and transmitters of the lineage and traditions of the true Dhamma. These are the Bhikkhuni historians, or HerStorians. The Dipavamsa Chronicle of the Island records this great lineage of Bhikkhuni Theris from the 3rd century BCE, the Ashokan period, up to the 1st century BCE, at least. That is, in the first 500-year period of the Buddha Sasana, and perhaps even up to the 2nd century of the Common Era. Dipavamsa is thought by scholars to have been committed to writing in the 4th century of the Common Era, perhaps by Bhikkhunis. Inscriptions on the Isle of Sri Lanka show that this Bhikkhunis tradition lasted up to the 11th up into the 11th century CE with royal and popular support. This completes part 1, Intro to Bhikkhunī Sangha History, HerStory, the first turning. We'll continue tomorrow with Bhikkhunī Sangha history in the second turning and third turning. Part 2, the Buddhist Community, Parallel Patterns. We have learned the Buddha Chatuparisa. Chatuparisat is fourfold: bhikkhus, bhikkhunis, upasakas, and upasikas. Additionally, under the monastic community, we also have further parallels: samanera and samaneri, male and female novices, plus on the bhikkhuni side, the sikamanas, female probationers. Actually, bhikkhus are known to use the term sikamana as well, for the time that they are in training, dedicated to the training. That is, sikamanas, training-minded, before becoming arahantas. For example, in the Seka Sutta of Anguttara Nikaya, the numerical discourses of the Buddha. Among the bhikkhus and bhikkhunis, then, we know of the Theras and Theris. In Sri Lanka, they say Therani and Theraniya for bhikkhuni Theris. In India, we find for Thera the Sanskrit form Shtavira and Shtabir. For bhikkhunis, this should be Shtaviri or Shtavira, Stabiri or Shtabira. Traditionally, Thera and Therī are used after completing 10 vasas following bhikkhu or bhikkhuni upasampada, although we can see some Sangha leaders using earlier. In Sri Lanka, there used to be an exam to show one's knowledge and learning, as well as a recommendation of high-level good conduct before a bhikkhu could use Thera with their monastic name. Mahātherī and Mahātherī are used after completing 20 vasas upasampada and are also written conjoined, Mahātherī and Mahātherī. Traditionally, Nayaka and Mahanayaka are used for those Mahatheras who become leaders of the Sangha. We also find the word Nayika used for bhikkhuni leaders or Naya, as we saw just earlier in Dipavamsa. Parallel patterns: Nayaka Thera, Nayika Therī, Mahathera, Mahātherī, Thera, Therī, Bhikkhu, Bhikkhuni, Sikamana, Sikamana, Samanera, Samaneri, Upasaka, Upasika. Bhikkhus and bhikkhunis we can further describe as new or novice in their first 5 years upasampada as Nava Bhikkhu or Nava Bhikkhuni. I've also heard Navika Bhikkhuni. In their middle years, from 5 to 10 years upasampada, and Majjhima Bhikkhu or Majjhima Bhikkhuni. In this section, we should also add the teachers, Acharya and Ācarinī, who should have at least 10 vasas. For bhikkhunis, we also find the form Acharyi. So Acharyas and Ācarinis should be Theras or Theris, or Mahatheras and Mahatheris. We also have the preceptors, Bhikkhu Upajjhaya and Bhikkhuni Upajjhaya. The Bhikkhuni Upajjhaya in the Pali text canon is also known as Upajja and Pavatini. Per Vinaya, the Bhikkhu Upajjhaya should have at least 10 vasas, and the Bhikkhuni Upajjhaya, the Pavatini, at least 12 vasas. There's a question about whether those 12 vasas should include sikamana time or not. So now our parallel patterns expand. Nayaka Thera, Nayika Therī, Mahathera, Mahātherī, Upajjhaya, Upajjhaya, Acharya, Ācarinī, Thera, Therī, Bhikkhu, Bhikkhuni, Sikamana, Sikamana, Samanera, Samaneri, Upasaka, Upasika. To use upajaya or upaja for bhikkhuni preceptors is canonical. It's what we find in the Tipitaka, particularly in the Vinaya Pitaka, in the Bhikkhuni Vibhanga. Pavatini is the word we find in our Bhikkhuni Patimokkha, which is canonically explained in the Bhikkhuni Vibhanga as upajaya. In other Indic Buddhist texts preserved in Prakrit and Sanskrit, we do not find the word pavatini, but rather we find upajayini and upajayika for bhikkhuni preceptors, with the bhikkhu form being upajaya. Historically, in the greater society of which Buddhism was a part, the Brahmins used the Sanskrit upajaya and still do. But these non-monastic Brahmin priests who were teachers, who were upajayas, then their wives were called the upajayini. Maybe this is why some Buddhists wish to avoid that one, not sure. The Jains used pravartana, or pavatana, and pravartini, pavatini, and still do so. Buddhists and Jains originally lived in the Madhyadesha, or Madhyadesh, the Middle Land. After the Buddha's lifetime, many more Brahmins moved into and expanded the Brahmanized Aryavarta territory into the Madhyadesha, and Buddhism spread out into the Aryavarta, where Brahmins were much more common and well established in society. A number of the early bhikkhunis, like great disciple Therī Pada Kundalakesa, who some call the other first bhikkhuni, and others who we find in the beginning of Therī Gatha on Kijakutta, in Sanskrit Gritrakutta, Vulture's Peak, were likely already bhikkhunis following Jainism before becoming disciples of the Buddha. It is speculated by scholars that these early monastic women who converted from being Jain bhikkhunis to Buddhist bhikkhunis brought some of the Jain monastic use of language with them into the early Bhikkhunī Sangha. There were also eminent Brahmins who entered the Bhikkhunī Sangha both in the Buddha's time and later, who became great and illustrious authors in the Sangha, such as Acharya Ashvaghosh, who authored the Buddha Charita, a Brahmanized biography of the Buddha, in the 1st or 2nd century CE, and Acharya Buddhaghosa, who authored the principal polytext Atthakatha commentaries in the 5th century CE, around 1,000 years after the Buddha. So, as we continue with these parallel patterns, on the other side, from among the laity, we add in the terms Naga and Nagini for those who are aspirants. And we have Dayaka and Dayika for those who are especially dedicated donors, benefactors, and supporters of the Bhikkhu Bhikkhunī Sangha, as well as Maha Upasaka and Maha Upasika for those who are really greatly dedicate their lives to Buddhism at the forefront. Then we also find the term Savaka and Savika for those who are disciples of the Buddha, independent of whether they are householders or monastics. They are the Sāvaka Sangha. They are the 4 pairs, that is the 8 kinds of noble beings. Esa Bhagavato, Sāvaka Sangho. The stream enters, Sota Patipanna, stream winners, Sakadagami, once returners, Anagami, and Arahantas, Arahata, in path and fruits. Note also the feminine term Arahati. So Bhikkhus Sāvakas, Bhikkhuni Sāvikas, Upasaka Sāvakas, Upasika Sāvikas. For those disciples who were commended by the Buddha as foremost in excellent qualities to be remembered, they are called Aga, Sanskrit Agra, foremost or chief among them, Etadaga, first and foremost. These we call the Aga Maha Sawakas and the Aga Maha Sawikas, or Etadaga Maha Sawakas, Etadaga Maha Sawikas, remembered as foremost among the Buddha's disciples. Bhikkhu Etadaga Maha Sawaka, Bhikkhuni Etadaga Maha Sawika. Many of you will have learned the Lana Thai Pali chant of the 13 Bhikkhuni Agamaha Savikas. Ratanyunang Bhikkhuninang Gotami Jinamatucha Tapita Agatanam Hi Sada Sotin Karotunom. Actually, I really love the tune and way of chanting that I heard from Venerable Dhammananda, Therī, and the Bhikkhunis at the Songtama Kalayani Bhikkhuni Arama in Thailand. There's also the canonical Etadaga Sawika Bhikkhunis chant from Anguttara Nikaya. Etatakang Bhikkhave mama sahuikanang Bhikkhuninang ratanyunang yaditang mahapajapati gotami etatakang Bhikkhave mama sahuikanang Bhikkhuninang. Because this is the foremost of my Bhikkhuni disciples in seniority, Mahapajapati Gotami. So, let us now enter the Bhikkhunī Vinaya. Part 3, Intro to Bhikkhunī Vinaya, Bhikkhuni Vibhanga and Bhikkhuni Khandhaka. We should note that the Bhikkhunī Sangha, per Theravada traditions, is said to have been founded 5 years after the Bhikkhu Sangha. Patimokkha, per Theravada traditions, is said to have begun to be established 20 years after the Buddha began teaching. So there's a 15-year period between the time of Bhikkhunī Sangha establishment and first Patimokkha precepts. The Buddha called his own teaching Dhamma Vinaya. The Sutta Pitaka contains 5 collections or Nikayas of Dhamma teachings. The Vinaya Pitaka also contains 5 collections of Vinaya teachings, which are sometimes organized into 3 or 4 collections, as we'll see. Vinaya Pitaka has 5 collections. 1. Mahavibhanga, also known as the Bhikkhu Vibhanga. 2. Bhikkhuni Vibhanga. 3. Mahavaga Khandhaka. 4. Chulavaga Khandhaka. Note the different spelling. 5. Parivara. Vinaya Pitaka has 5 collections. You can see that on tipitaka.org, the CST, Chatta Sankhayana, Tipitaka, Burmese 5th Council edition of the Tipitaka, also has 5 collections, but organized a little differently. Actually, the order is the same, it's just the naming here is different. Rather than saying Bhikkhu Vibhanga, it says Parajika Pali. And then Pachitya Pali, this is all Mahavibhanga, Bhikkhu Vibhanga, but within the Pachitya Pali, when you open it up, then you find the Bhikkhuni Vibhanga is there. Vinaya Pitaka has 4 collections. The useful Sutta Central website, suttacentral.net, is organized into 4. 1. The Bhikkhu Vibhanga. 2. Bhikkhuni Vibhanga. 3. The Khandhakas, including Mahavaga and Chulavaga. 4. Parivara. Vinaya Pitaka has 3 collections. 1. Vibhanga, including both Mahavibhanga and Bhikkhuni Vibhanga. 2. Khandhakas, including both Mahavaga and Chulavaga. And 3. Parivara. This is just to give you a heads up about these different forms of organization. Today, I will be speaking mainly about these 2 Vinaya collections. 1. Vibhanga. 2. Khandhakas. The last, number 3, Parivara, is a study tool that works with the Vinaya discipline already set forth in the Vibhanga and Khandhakas. There are 2 main places that we find Vinaya, especially for Bhikkhunis. Within the Vibhanga's collection, the Bhikkhuni Vibhanga. Within the Khandhakas collection, the Bhikkhuni Khandhaka. We will look at the Khandhakas first. It's here in the Bhikkhuni Khandhaka, Chulavaga 10, that we find the Buddha's never revoked allowance or direction to the Bhikkhu Sangha, Anujanami Bhikkhave, to give higher ordination. That is upasampada to bhikkhunis. Anujanami bhikkhave, bhikkhuhi, bhikkhunio, upasampade tunti. How do we see it for ourselves? This is on Sutta Central, the home page, suttacentral.net. On the left we see Sutta Pitaka, basket of discourses. In the center we see Vinaya Pitaka, basket of monastic law. On the right we see Abhidhamma Pitaka, basket of systematic treatises. Opening it up, the center, Vinaya Pitaka, we see monastic law of the Theravada school, Theravada Vinaya Pitaka. And then below that, as we scroll down, we find the records of Vinaya from other schools that have been recorded and passed down. Entering into the monastic law of the Theravada school, the Theravada Vinaya Pitaka, we enter into the Khandhakas. This is the Bhikkhuni Khandhaka. So with the Khandhakas combined here, if we look just at Chulavaga, then it would be chapter 10. But here with them combined, it's the 20th Khandhaka, it's the Bhikkhuni Khandhakas. So it says here, the Bhikkhuni Khandhaka, the chapter on nuns, comprises all the rules within the monastic code, the Patimokkha, that are specific to Bhikkhunis, including the ordination ceremony and ordination by messenger. This chapter begins with the ordination of Mahapajapati Gautami, which marks the beginning of the Sangha of Bhikkhunis. We're going to take a look at translations by Bhikkhu Pramali. We can look at them. the English and the Pali text line by line here together. Let's take a look. Now going into the Bhikkhuni Khandhaka, translation by Bhikkhu Brahmali, number 3, section number 3 is the Bhikkhuni Upasampada Anujanana. So Mahapajapati Gautami went to the Buddha, bowed down. Atako Mahapajapati Gautami yena bhagavaten upasankame tva bhagavantang abhivade tva ekamantang artasi. So she bowed down and then sat to one side and said, Venerable Sir, what should I do with these Shakyan women? Ekamantang titako Mahapajapati Gautami bhagavantang etadavocha. Kata hang bante imasu shakyanisu patipajamiti. The Buddha then instructed, inspired, and gladdened her with a teaching. After which she bowed down, circumambulated him with her right side toward him to show her respect, and left. Soon afterwards, the Buddha gave a teaching and addressed the monks, the bhikkhus. Bhikkhu amantesi, I allow you, bhikkhus, to give full ordination, upasampada, to bhikkhunis, anujanami bhikkhave, bhikkhuhi bhikkhuniyo upasampadetunti. This is it. It's also here in the Bhikkhuni Khandhaka that we find the Buddha's direction to Mahapajapati Gautami, likely 15 years later, as to how bhikkhunis are to train with regards to the Patimokkha Sila precepts that have been established for bhikkhus. These precepts that have been set forth for bhikkhus, unless otherwise noted, are shared sadharana with bhikkhunis. Back into Sutta Central, Bhikkhuni Khandhaka, Bhikkhu Brahmali. On another occasion, Mahapajapati Gautami went to the Buddha and bowed down and said, Venerable Sir, how should we practice those training rules, those precepts that the bhikkhunis have in common with the bhikkhus? In common here, you can see underlined and with the arrow is sadharanani, sadharana. And the Buddha replies, you should practice them in the same way that the bhikkhus do. Yatha bhikkhu sikkanti tata tesu sikkapadesu sikkatati. And she continues, how should we practice those training rules, those sikka, that the bhikkhunis don't have in common with the bhikkhus? The Buddha replies, you should practice them as they have been laid down. We're now looking at Bhikkhuni Patimokkha Fourth Edition cover. I hope you all have a copy, or that you'll be receiving a copy of this as a Dhamma Dana soon. So opening up to Bhikkhuni Patimokkha Fourth Edition, here we can see this notation about the sadharana precepts. I want to point it out to you. So here we're at the beginning of the Parajika section, in the very beginning of the Patimokkha, the Parajika Udeso. And this page shows the first 4 Parajikas here in Pali on the right and in English on the left. And here at this arrow, you can see after number 1, there's a note which says See Bhikkhus Parajika 1. And that's because this Parajika 1 here is shared for both the Bhikkhu Sangha and the Bhikkhuni Sangha. Likewise here, look at this notation, it's short in brackets in light gray color. It just says 2, but that means See Bhikkhus Parajika 2. here, and that's because this precept is sadharana. This is shared with the Bhikkhu Sangha. And number 3, likewise, you see number 3. So this is the same for bhikkhus and for bhikkhunis. And number 4, likewise, these are all sadharana. For this reason, while the Bhikkhuni Patimokkha contains 311 precepts, the Bhikkhuni Vibhanga contains only 4 parajika rather than 8, because those 4 sadharana shared precepts, we find, the bhikkhunis find them in the Mahavibhanga or Bhikkhu Vibhanga. The reason it's called Mahavibhanga is because it's big. It's much bigger than the Bhikkhuni Vibhanga, and because so many of those precepts are shared in the Bhikkhuni Vibhanga. The Bhikkhuni Vibhanga contains only 4 parajika, 10 sanghadisesa, 12 nisagya pachitya, 86 pachitya, and 2 patidesaniya sikkhapada, totaling just 114 precepts in the Bhikkhuni Vibhanga, compared to 227 precepts established for bhikkhus in the Bhikkhu Vibhanga. So 114 is about half that number. We're looking here now again at tipitaka.org, and we've opened up this section under Vinaya Pitaka and Parajika Pali, Pachitya Pali. So this is the Vibhanga section. And we've come to 5, 6, 7, 8 in the Bhikkhu Vibhanga. And then we start at 1 again here. And this is the beginning of the Bhikkhuni Vibhanga here. So Parajika Khandang, Bhikkhuni Vibhango. And then we have Sanghadisesa Khandang, Bhikkhuni Vibhango. So this is all what's included in the Bhikkhuni Vibhanga. And underneath that we see the Mahavaga Khandhaka, Chulavaga Khandhaka, and Parivara. So Bhikkhuni Vibhanga contains 4 parajikas. So we're looking at the end here of the parajika section. And this parajika section only has the 4 parajikas that originated with the Bhikkhunī Sangha. Our Bhikkhuni Patimokkha has 8 parajikas. These 4 that originated with the Bhikkhu Sangha, and which we find here in Parajika Pali, in this section, beginning the Bhikkhu Vibhanga, and then also the 4 here from the Bhikkhuni Vibhanga. In our Patimokkha, they're combined together. So these 4 from the Bhikkhunis, plus 4 that are sadharana, that is, they're shared. So we're looking here then, this is the home page of tipitaka.org, Pali Tipitaka, and I had clicked on Roman here and clicked on the web, and so then it's also possible to download PDF. There are other scripts here as well, like you can get Khmer script or Sinhala script or Thai, even Tibetan. This is the Chatta Sanghayana Tipitaka at tipitaka.org. So, about 37% of our bhikkhunis' precepts in the Vibhanga texts were established related to the misconduct of bhikkhunis. That's in the Bhikkhuni Vibhanga, while 63% are inherited from and shared, or sadharana can mean co-held, held together with the Bhikkhu Sangha, sadharana, those shared precepts. In the Khandhakas, Mahavaga and Chulavaga, the percentage of Bhikkhu Bhikkhuni shared discipline is much higher, making for a total of about 90% of the Bhikkhunis' Vinaya discipline shared with the Bhikkhu Sangha. Let us return now to the Bhikkhuni Khandhaka, Chulavaga 10. For it's here in the Bhikkhuni Khandhaka that we also find the Buddha's teaching 15 years earlier to Mahapajapati Gotami, through which she then, diligent, ardent, and resolute, in no long time realized that state for which good women go forth from household life into homelessness, rending the dark veil of ignorance, and leaving all suffering forever behind, entered the ranks of the Arahants. This is very important to us. We're back on suttacentral.net in the Bhikkhuni Khandhaka, Ajahn Pramali's translation. On another occasion, Mahapajapati Gotami went to the Buddha and bowed down. Atako Mahapajapati Gotami yena bhagavaten upasankame tva bhagavantang abhivade tva ekamantang arthasi. And she said, "It would be good, Venerable Sir, if you would give me a teaching in brief. I could then stay by myself secluded, heedful, energetic, and diligent." Then the Buddha begins to teach her, and this is the teaching through which she comes to practice and awaken. Those things go to me that you know. Here the Buddha calls her Gotami, not Mahapajapati. We think Mahapajapati is like a great leader, or also for her then when she became chief queen, after her sister Mahamaya had passed away. But Gotami is the name by which the Buddha himself called her, like he was also called Gotama. Those things go to me that you know lead to passion, not to dispassion, to bondage, not to freedom from bondage. So we're going to now go and we're going to see this short, simple, and powerful teaching, which also appears at the very beginning of your commemorative copy of Bhikkhuni Patimokkha Fourth Edition. Let's see what it looks like here. This is Bhikkhuni Patimokkha Fourth Edition, and in the very beginning, this page, go to me, these qualities of which you would know. These qualities lead to dispassion, not passion, to being fettered, to being unfettered, not fettered, to getting rid of, not heaping up, to few wishes, not many wishes, to contentment, not discontentment, to seclusion, not socializing, to arousal of energy, not laziness, to being easy to support, not hard to support. You may definitely hold, this is the Dhamma, this is the Vinaya, this is the teaching of the Buddha. We notice here that this says, it's from AN is Anguttara Nikaya, the chapter of the eights, because there are 8 qualities that are listed here. And it's called the Gotami Sutta in some editions. So this particular teaching and this occasion is so important that it's included not only in the Bhikkhuni Khandhaka, Chulavaga 10, in the Vinaya Pitaka, but also in the Sutta Pitaka, in Anguttara Nikaya, the numerical discourses of the Buddha. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. So, summary of day 1. Check. Intro to the history of the Bhikkhunī Sangha. The first turning, the first 500-year period of the Sasana. Next time, I hope we'll cover more Bhikkhunī Sangha history from the second and third turnings, the second and third 500-year periods. Check Intro to the Buddhist Community, parallel patterns in roles within the monastic and lay community. Check Intro to Bhikkhunī Vinaya and where it's located within the Buddhist monastic discipline. This is the end of our class today, the heritage of the Bhikkhunī Sangha, on Introduction to Bhikkhunī Sangha History, or HerStory, and Bhikkhunī Vinaya. May all beings be at ease. May the radiant wishes of teachers and students bear the most excellent fruits. Chirang titatu buddhasasanang. Namo Buddhaya, Namo Dhammaya, Namo Sanghaya.
Very thanks, Mahātherī, for very comprehensive research on the and also in the practice of the Vinaya. So now we open the sessions. Tathālokā, can you hear us? Yes?
Yes, I can.
That's very good. Not very loud. Okay, so the candidates, anyone have any questions? We can ask them. Anything you'd like to know?
Greetings, all dear Venerable Theris and Mahātheris and all seminaries and all the Bhikkhunis who are present. I'm so happy to be able to see you live. I miss to be able to be there with you in person so much, but delighted to be able to join you live online together right now. Please, if you have any questions, I know it was difficult for you to see the text because of the screen, and it was so small. But if you want to watch on the UTBSI YouTube channel later on, I hope you'll be able to see it much more clearly. And I can share the recording, the PDF with anyone who wishes. So I'm not sure what time it is for you now and when you must go for the Amisadana. But if you have any time for questions, then welcome. Can you hear me all right?
Yes, we can hear very clearly. Before I answer the questions, I have one feedback from the report. So your voice is quite clear, but the text is the font size is too small. We are sitting at the front table, but we cannot see. So our students at their class, it's very difficult for them to follow what you are trying to express. So next time, if you can make your phone bigger, it will be easier for us to follow what you are saying. And I have one more question while waiting for the students. You had the list of parallel service for the bhikkhus, for the male and the female disciples of the Buddha. So I saw Sikhamana and Sikhamana. So I want to know Sikhamana is the term which is known to be as a person.
Venerable, the sound from the mic is coming through here, kind of like underwater. I could not hear you clearly. I think that you were asking something about Sikhamana, but really I couldn't hear. Would you mind to try again?
Yes, I'd like to ask about the term Sikhamana for male. You know Sikhamana or female already?
Mm-hmm.
It's a very new term for us. So you can explain more about this term, Sikhamana?
Yes. about Sikamana for the male. So the reason I mentioned about that is because if we read the Pali text in Pali, then we can notice that there's also the Sikaman that's used for the bhikkhus as well. In this case, it means that they are dedicated to the training, the sika. Their mana, their mind is dedicated to the training, and they are applying themselves to the training with dedication. And they speak about themselves as a sikamana before they have become an arahanta. Means one who is in training. So there's a question in Therī Gatha. There are several places where that Therī, that bhikkhuni, also is talking about when she was still a sikamana in a way that's very similar to what we find in several of the suttas for the bhikkhus in the Sutta Pitaka. So the question in Therī Gatha then is, sikamana for the bhikkhuni, Therī there, means just like for the bhikkhus, she's striving, she's dedicatedly practicing herself and training, talking about the time before she became an arahanta or arahanti, or is it referring to sikamana, who is pabajita seminary before upasampada? We know also there are two different kinds of upasampada. One kind of upasampada is the full acceptance into the ubato sankha or ubhayata sankha, means the dual sankha of bhikkhus and bhikkhunis. Then we have full rights, full responsibilities, not only in the bhikkhu sankha, not only in the bhikkhuni sankha, but in the ubato sankha, in the dual sankha. This is one kind of upasampada. But we know in Theravada Patimokkha, we find also Sabba Papasa Ācarinī Kusala Supasampada. Then in this case, this is putting aside all the causes of suffering and then fully entering into all that is wholesome, skillful, and liberating. So this upasampada then is associated both with stream entry as well as the complete fulfillment in the path, that is the arahanta phala bhoga. So this is the different way that these terms are used. Some people say that in the earlier Buddhism, early in the Buddha's life, then the sikamana just means dedicated to the training, applying themselves to the training well, and upasampada just means they're entering into that same base, that same course, and that same foundation or basis of the training that is shared with all the noble ones, that is with the Arya Sangha. I hope that this is useful. Is the sound coming through all right?
Yes, yes. And now we will the opportunity to ask students to do questions to you. Questions to the applicant or the song
So I try to offer in this class something that would be useful for introduction, also making the knowledge more strong for those who studied already, and then also even for those who have been studying for a long time. I tried to offer some points of interest that we don't always hear about. So even from the Bhikkhuni Therīs and Mahātherīs, some point even. I think it's classical and traditional, but also could be controversial because the people don't think like that or don't say like that often. Please go ahead if there's any other question.
What about the Sadharana making between Sadharana? What was the Sadharana?
I think I can see and hear Venerable Bhikkhuni Sumana, maybe, but I couldn't understand. I couldn't hear clearly enough. Again, please. I'm sorry, the sound on the mic is coming through very wah, 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 kind of difficult to hear clearly. Also, if there's anyone there who can hear, who can type in the chat the question, then I can read it.
I want to give about this Sadharana. Sadharana means the meaning of Sadharana. Sadharana is basically
So can you type down there because I'm not listening. We want to know the meaning of the sentence. So Sadharana is common. That is universal, right? The meaning.
Could someone type it in the chat for me? Because the sound is so hard to hear, I can read in the chat and I can answer. If Aya Santini or someone there can type in the chat.
Sapaduka Satharana, yes?
Oh.
What does it mean? Yeah.
Sapaduka Satharana. Where is this from? Satharana means shared. Satharana means held together. And here Satharana is used in Vinaya for the precepts in Patimokkha and that we find in Bhikkhuni Vibhanga. Particularly we find in Bhikkhu Vibhanga that are also shared with the Bhikkhunis. So 1/3 or more than 1/3 of our Bhikkhuni Patimokkha is not Sadharana. It's not shared with the Bhikkhu Sangha. Also, there are precepts that the Bhikkhu Sangha has that Bhikkhunis do not have. A number of them, because their body is different. And some circumstances are different. But the ones that are shared by the Bhikkhu Sangha and Bhikkhuni Sangha, these Patimokkha, Sikkapada, or Patimokkha Sila or Sadharana. But Sapaduka Sadharana, I think this is the suffering that all of us share together. Number one, dukkha. We have a body. This body is pains of the body, like now getting hungry because near lunchtime, amisadana, and this is just dukkha, getting sick, getting old, the body breaking down. We get a thorn in our finger, and it's painful. it's different than the thorn in the heart. The thorn in the heart, in one way, is much more difficult to take out, but in another way, it's much more easy. Because it's just our mind. With the body, necessarily, aging, sickness, death, then we have this is the sadharana dukkha, dukkha, that we all share together, having been born. There is this dukkha, aging, there is this dukkha. But dying, not necessarily, may or may not be the dukkha, depending on our mind. Ayaviri Dhamma, Venerable Liu Fap, now I can see you very well and clearly. But still the sound is not coming through well. Venerable, now I can see.
Now without microphone.
Oh,
Is it clear?
yes.
Okay.
So much echoing.
So I think yes, it's okay. Now, I think that in my opinion, the question she asked is Sabba dukkha nisarana nibbana sachikaranatthaya. Is it right?
Sabba dukkha nisarana nibbana sachikaranatthaya imang kasawang. Yes?
In one room?
Yes. The sound is feedback.
The sound is conflict. So I will switch off my phone. Only switch off the speaker here.
Yes.
I use only the
live the audio. To read the audio.
this. Okay.
It's our first class. Now we're finding out everything about how does it work. Sabba dukkha nisarana nibbana sachikaranatthaya. Yes, I can hear.
Can you hear me now, Venerable?
Yes, I can. I can hear you now.
Feeling dimension on a circle and to recognize the Nibbana. May the Venerable accept this Khandhaka and Ācarinī after connection. So that is the sentence we say to the when we get the Khandhaka suddenly. So I think that the sentence is like to be Sabba dukkha nisarana, not Sabba. If you say Sadhana means universal. Sabba dukkha sadhana means the suffering is universal. All the suffering is universal means that everywhere we have suffering. Sentence and meaning.
Venerable Bhikkhuni Sumana, thank you so much for asking about a very important point.
Venerable, can you hear me now?
Yes.
No, but I want
Excuse me. So can I use my phone? And yes.
Now I can hear you very well.
Okay, can you hear me now very well?
Yes, I can hear you great now.
Okay. So she said that she heard the sentence Sabba Dukkha Satharana from your letter right now. But I don't think that it is correct sentence. So do you say that sentence in your letter? Sabba Dukkha Satharana?
No, I didn't. I didn't say that.
Yeah.
Dharana, I was only speaking about the precepts that we find in the Maha Vibhanga or Bhikkhu Vibhanga that are also shared with the bhikkhunis that are part of our Bhikkhuni Patimokkha. I was only speaking about sadharana for this.
Okay, so you understand? See, the Agyo repeater, she used only satharana, not sabba dukkha. And satharana here means shared. So there are some precepts that are shared among the bhikkhus and the bhikkhunis. And some are especially only for bhikkhuni, not shared with the bhikkhus. So she doesn't mention sabba dukkha, only satharana. Okay. Yes.
Those precepts that are shared between the bhikkhus and the bhikkhunis are more than 60%. So that's a lot. That's just with regards to Patimokkha. So between Bhikkhu and Bhikkhuni Patimokkha, more than 60% are the same for the bhikkhus and the bhikkhunis. The precepts in Bhikkhuni Patimokkha that are not shared, that originated with the bhikkhunis, that arose due to the misconduct of a bhikkhuni, actually it's small, less than 200. Only about half the number of the precepts that were formed from the Bhikkhunī Sangha. The reason that I mention this is because sometimes people say, even when I was in East Asia, people said bhikkhunis have 500 precepts. It's so heavy. Their karmic load is so heavy because of heavy sin, too many asavas. People said this kind of thing, but actually the number of precepts that we have that came from the bhikkhunis' misconduct is small, less than 200. So much of the discipline is shared with the Bhikkhu Sangha, arising from the Bhikkhu Sangha. It's good for both of us to practice. That's sadharana.
Yes, thank you so much. There is one question from a Samaneri. Does Sikhamana applies to all Samaneris irrespective of age? That is, after Samaneri, on the way to be ordained as Bhikkhuni. Can you hear me?
Yes, Venerable, I can hear you clearly. Thank you. And that's such a good question. I've had this question myself for many years. And I know there are different beliefs about this. With the beginning in Theravada Buddhism in the 1980s to give the seminary Papaja, again, Sri Lankan Bhikkhu teachers began to give. Also Lao Bhikkhu teachers began to give seminary Papaja again. I remember a conversation with them. They're trying to understand, what is this Sikhamana? It's only for the young ladies? Like it mentions age 10, age 12, like under 20. Is it only for the young ladies to be able to get the special education and support? Because long ago in India, the child marriage, the girls started to get married so young, around age 10. Maybe it's after the Buddha's lifetime. In the Buddha's lifetime, they said, the Buddha's area, maybe age 16, the Buddha and Yasodhara, Bimba Yasodhara, they said they're both age 16, they married. But later on, they started to marry very young. Then those girls who married young, but they wished to enter the Buddhist Sangha also, that time, the boys got more education. Upanayana, they got initiation from the guru and then were able to study. But then the girls that study got cut off from the priest. So for the girls then, to be able to enter the Sangha, to be able to learn, study, they didn't have the same training necessarily in their lay life like we have now. Now, both boys and girls, well, not everywhere, at least here in the United States and some places, both the boys and the girls can go to school, grade school, high school, university. But I know in many places, like when I visited Cambodia, then also I met the girls and nuns, Donshi, who could only get first grade education or second grade or third grade or fourth grade. I know many places still it's true. Then when they enter the Sangha, they need special support, time, care, effort to support them to be able to learn, study, and understand, like to catch up, because they didn't have the same basic training that the boys, most of the boys did. So some of these senior bhikkhus, Mahātheros, Sri Lankan Mahātheros discussing about this, they said this sikamana is like special support, special opportunity in Buddhism from long ago to support the capable girls, because their situation is like coming from behind to give extra support for their training, their education, to be able to advance in Buddhism and catch up, to have the opportunity to fully learn and understand the Buddha's teaching. Still, it's an issue now, no. I'm not sure about Thailand now or Vietnam. I know in Cambodia, I know in India, still it's an issue. In Nepal, many times the girls, they have to stop school early because they're needed to work at home, or the boys get encouraged and more educational opportunity. So Bhikkhunī Sangha in Buddhism, they understood, is specially meant to give that opportunity and support to nurture them, to educate them, not secular education, but to be able to understand and practice rightly and teach rightly the Buddha's teaching. For this reason, they explain like that. But they just gave seminary papaja, still mostly in Sri Lanka, and almost every country, I think, except Thailand. They still mostly just give seminary papaja first. Then people ask, why 2 years seminary papaja? Is it necessary if over age 20 years old? It's also a good question. So when we study the Tipitaka Mula, canonical Pali text, still to me, it's not clear that the sikamana is required for who is over age 20. When we study the commentary, Atakata, Acharya Buddhaghosa says, someone asked the same question, if the ladies are over age 20, must they undertake sikamana before Bhikkhuni Upasampada? And Acharya Buddhaghosa says, even their age 100. They have to. Why? Excuse me for what I'm about to say. He says, why must they? Because women are stupid. Girls are stupid. So they must have sikamana. I'm not saying girls are stupid or women are stupid. I don't think so. I don't think it's right Dhamma, not practical, not proper Dhamma. However, we have to imagine in those circumstances, without the education, how it must have looked, how ignorant the girls and women must have looked because they have no education and so controlled within the women's and girls' community. So they appeared ignorant because of that. We can understand, but still, per the Buddha's teaching, it's not right to say. It's not proper to say just women are ignorant. Yes, some women are ignorant. Yes, some men are ignorant, some boys, some girls, but the Buddha's teaching is for everyone to remove the ignorance. It's not a permanent state. That's why we have the Buddha's teaching, because the ignorance can be reduced and eliminated. This path of practice is for this reason. That's why when we go forth, we say, Sabha dukkha nisarana nibbana sachikaranataya. Not only for boys, for all girls, even from age 7. We have the records, even from age 7, the girls becoming the Arahant in the Buddhist tradition. So there's the saying, old saying from India, that the other traditions, even they have the sage with the long white hair, long white beard, rishi, they're rishi like that. Even the elderly rishi could not touch, could not taste, could not realize the sublime Dhamma in the way that the 7-year-old girl in Buddhism has realized in the Buddha Sasana. Yes? I'm seeing from Venerable Vidita Dhamma Mahātherī, Venerable Liu Fab, it's lunchtime. Time for Amisa Dana offering, yes? So let me again just express my joy to be live with you. It's like psychic power to be able to have this window to join together from afar. And I just want to offer my blessings. May the offering of the food be well received. May the Dhamma, may the path of practice be well practiced. May the insight be well penetrated. Whether we're Anagarika training or seminary training, Bhikkhuni, Therī, Mahātherī training, may it be so for us. We have this great opportunity now. All of us here, may we apply ourselves well with all these great facilities, all the great efforts of the organizers and donors. May we take this most excellent opportunity now and make the best of it. Our upasampada should not only be the words, but our penetrating into the path and sharing the base of training with the Aryas, with the Arahantas. May we apply ourselves well. Susukang wataji wahama aturesu anaturan Aturesu manusesu viharama anaturaham. There's so much suffering. May we penetrate the ending, Sabha dukkha nisarana, nibbana sachikaranataya. May we penetrate into the sublime path and end the suffering. Idang no punyang asawakaya hotum. Idang no punyang maga palanyanasa hotum. Idang no punyang nibbana pachayo hotum. Sad, sad, sad.
So we would like to conclude this session with a big sadhu to Tathālokā Mahātherī, coming joining us from USA, and we learned so much about even the very short lecture. I think it's very concise and also for the clarification for questions. So we hope that our candidates will continue to take opportunity for more lectures that will come. To learn from the Mahātherīs and also for us to learn more from their activities and skills, exploring from the Dhamma Dana and also other acts for good reference, so that we know the way and direction on how we can establish or develop the Bhikkhunī Sangha in a more comprehensive way, so that our Bhikkhunis will also receive that respect and for the Bhikkhunis to be learned. And it's one of the way of the justice. So we wish all happiness to learning and living by the Vinaya and also concept of Bodhi. Thank you so much,
Triple gem blessings. Namo Ratanataya.
Right. So the end of session here this morning, and